don't have $1 million house next to that. So that is the thing. Let me see what the heck just.
What would be the solution of the stuff that they put now on the diesel engines?
What would be the solution of what they put on them?
If the DEF they put on the
Oh,
diesel
the DEF?
engine.
The DEF for the SCR? What about the DEF?
What's the chemical solution? What's in there? Is water with what?
It's 32.5% urea and the rest is water.
Urea means ammonia.
Basically, yep.
Yep. Okay. It's weird. That's what they use to make acid.
Uh-huh. Kind of crazy, huh? And this stuff is highly corrosive. Go figure.
Yes.
It looks just like water. It's clear. And if you spill on something, you just wipe it off, think it's no big deal. Then you get all this crystallized corrosion and etching that won't come up. I don't care if it's the concrete or it's the car or whatever. This stuff's really corrosive.
I used to work on a chemical plant that they used to make urea and acid, and they told us don't touch it because it'll get cancer. But then they'll load up the trucks with with that stuff and feed it to the cows because they gain weight.
Yeah.
But that's a high temperature of the mixture in the ammonia and cat used. That's a very high temperature of the mixture.
Yeah, the temperature in the catalytic converter has to be over 300 degrees.
Yes. But ammonia used in swimming pool, but it's far away toxic.
Yeah. Oh no. And you don't want to mix it with chlorine either.
Chlorine and ammonia both.
Yeah, you mix them, you get a deadly gas. So this right here is a European system. And so here I have a bunch of sensors. You see the exhaust looks very different than what we're used to seeing. And I've got a diesel oxidation converter, which is the same as our regular oxidation converter. It just oxidizes HCl. Down here, I have a NSC or NOx storage converter, which is a NOx adsorber type of converter where it stores and releases NOx. And it requires the car to go rich for about 1 or 2 seconds out of every 60. So it collects the NOx when it's lean, and then when it shifts rich, it's able to get rid of the NOx. This is what got Volkswagen in trouble, because the Volkswagen programming never went rich. That's why they got such great gas mileage. And this only cost the 4 lines of programming that Volkswagen didn't put in, or that I should say they did put in, they modified it. So it would only go into the cycle when the OBD2 connector was connected. Only cost them, I think, $18 billion. So it wasn't that Volkswagen is the only one that cheated. They just got caught the worst. And then we also have a hydrogen sulfide catalytic converter here, which is a little unique Volkswagen. And that's because they run higher sulfur content fuels in Europe. This is identification. So here's our emission label with our emission control equipment. I've got a charge air cooler, which is the intercooler for the diesel direct injection, EGR, heated oxygen sensors, NAC, which is NOx adsorber, adsorber. It doesn't absorb, it adsorbs, meaning it's only collected on the surface. It's not absorbed into the material. Converter, an oxidation converter, a particulate trap oxidizing converter, which is our diesel particulate filter, and a turbocharger. So you can see where we got this. So there's the emission label, and this is right out of all data. I put the picture here showing the different exhaust components. So it's not uncommon on a diesel vehicle to actually have to pull up a picture, because this stuff doesn't look, and it's all kind of globbed together. And if I look at this picture here, and I labeled stuff here, but I've got my diesel oxidation converter, my selective catalyst reduction and my diesel particulate filter, well, you can see this and this are all part of one assembly. So some of these exhaust systems only come in one or two pieces. It's kind of an all or nothing deal. Very different than gasoline exhaust systems that are all broken into individual components. And these are expensive systems, normally $4,000 to $6,000.
Yes.
So it's a lot of money when someone takes one off, isn't it?
Yes.
So our diesel particulate filter is an oxidation catalyst. And so what it does is it oxidizes HCCO. It also, the organic fraction of our diesel particulate is able to oxidize. And the other thing it does is it actually makes NOx. It actually oxidizes NO and makes NO2. So it's actually making NOx. But that's not necessarily a bad thing after 2010, and they actually wanted to do that because that way the SCR can take that NO2 and break it down into oxygen and nitrogen. Where if it's just NO, it has a harder time doing that. It doesn't break as cleanly. And we end up with a higher probability of O3, which is ground level ozone. So it actually serves a purpose. So even though we're oxidizing it, even though it makes NOx, which we don't want, because we have something else further down the chain that's going to get rid of that NOx, and we have to kind of build it before we can take it apart correctly. And so, like I said, it's all part of an integral system, which is really interesting. I spent the last month or so, month and a half, going through diesel emissions and really getting into the chemistry for the book and class I was writing. So it's really interesting. So here is our diesel oxidation catalyst. We can see I get a CO, HC, and NOx is going to come in. I'm going to get O2, CO2, nitrogen, and NOx out. And that's not entirely correct, and we don't break down the NOx, but it gives you an idea of where we're going. Again, this is very similar honeycomb. Boy, they really kind of messed this up.
Why it is
I
called?
need to find a better picture, because I see what they did here. I see what they did. They put the oxidation cat in with something else in the housing. I need to find a better picture. Because what they're showing here, if you look at the zoom in on here, see how this goes in here and it stops and collects stuff and then it goes out the other way, where one cell is blocked and the other one's open? That's what a particulate trap, that's what a diesel particulate filter does. The catalytic converter is a honeycomb. It goes straight through. It does not cause any restriction. So I need to find a better picture. I grabbed that one because it was kind of nice to add some pictures to it, does some stuff, but it's got enough stuff there that's just wrong.
But why it is called the exploded view? Exploded.
Yeah, it's exploded view, and this is a cat. This is the oxidation cat here. This is a particulate diesel particulate filter here. I want to find a picture that just has the cat separately. But it, like I said, the more you learn when things aren't quite right.
Yes.
And then other people look at it and go, well, there's nothing wrong with it. Yeah, there is. Then you're just a jerk pointing out what's wrong. So there are two types of particulate filters, open and closed, or flow through versus restricted. So the open type works compared to a catalytic converter. The exhaust is led down a substrate of hundreds of tiny channels. The channels are coated with a catalytic material that incinerates the particulates as they come into contact. The efficiency of the open type converter is 50% reduction of particulate matter, but the particulate number is really unaffected. By number, I mean size. A closed type filter, which is what we use on all light duty vehicles, is made up from highly porous ceramics or metal. Just as an open type filter, the exhaust gas is led down tiny channels, but every second channel is blocked, which forces the exhaust gas to penetrate the filter and then to be let out the other side. And this gets rid of about 90% of the particulates. A closed filter must be regenerated frequently. And what regeneration is we actually get the temperature of this to over 1,000 degrees, So we actually turn that carbon into ash. And then the ash falls basically to the bottom or inside the filter. Eventually the filter plugs up and it either has to be replaced, or there are companies out there that can disassemble some of these and they put them in an oven and bake them and then shake all the ash out, put them back together, and then they're good to go. And we see that a lot on medium duty trucks. So there are companies out there that'll do that. So that's the regeneration. When we regenerate the filter, we use a lot of extra fuel in order to build extra heat in the exhaust, and we use the diesel oxidation converter to help generate that heat. And depending on driving pattern, the vehicle, various technologies are used for regeneration. And so here is our diesel particulate filter. You see a pre-filter section, the diesel particulate filter section. We got some bands going around, some reinforcement, inlet section out. So this right here is why we should have no smoke coming out of the tailpipe of a diesel. If we have smoke coming out, which is particulate, that means this filter is either hollow or missing. And there you have it. So when you're on the road and you see a truck smoking out, it either doesn't have this or it's been punched out, it's hollow inside. And so if it's a newer truck, certainly 2007 and newer, on anything, you know, really 600 series and below, a two-ton truck or less should have this. You shouldn't see any smoke out of that truck. And you can actually report smoke. There's a tab on the Bureau website, on the smogcheck.ca.gov website, where you can actually report the license plate number, the street and direction you were on and time of day, and they will actually follow up with vehicles that are putting out excessive smoke and require them to come in and get what's called an opacity test, which measures the amount of smoke coming out of the exhaust. So you don't just have to sit there at an intersection waiting for it to clear when someone decides that they want to share all their smoke with you. And here's a picture of a diesel particulate filter, and it is actually monitored by pressure. So we have ports in the front of it and port in the back of it, as we'll see here, that go to a pressure sensor. So you can see the two tubes, and they measure the difference between the pressure before and the pressure after. And the difference in that pressure is what decides how much of a soot load it has and if it's time to be regenerated or not. And so these do actually plug up. If for some reason a regeneration cannot happen, performance will be limited to the point where eventually the vehicle may be limited to a 5-mile-an-hour maximum or a 45-mile-an-hour maximum. It gives you a warning. It says, hey, if you don't get it regened within 100 miles, we're going to reduce your power. You don't get it done within 30 miles, we're going to reduce your power even more. And they basically force the customer to have to take care of these systems. Unfortunately, a lot of these I've gotten in to the shop where it's 30 miles before the thing's got a 15-mile-an-hour speed limit. And I can only go 45, and to run a regen on one that's having problems, I need to go 80 uphill. So I got to start getting creative with how to solve the problem the customer created and get the vehicle back to them. Because if I can't get this cleaned out, if I can't get it to regen, I either need to take it off and replace it, very expensive, or some of them I can send out and have them baked and have them fixed that way, which is also expensive. So this is something that procrastination is not a good idea. If it's coming up and saying you need to regen this long before we reduce power, that means you already have a problem and its attempt to regen has already been unsuccessful. That needs to get into a shop right away where that can get corrected before it becomes catastrophic and it just costs even more money.
There's any additives you can put into the fuel so make it work better or clean out?
Not really. Diesel fuel today is ultra low sulfur fuel. There's really nothing in the fuel to make the system work better. Certainly if I'm going to Mexico and getting fuel, that would cause damage to the system because they're not necessarily using ultra low sulfur fuel, and sulfur will damage the system. So certainly using the right fuel comes into it. But as long as I'm going and buying fuel, diesel 2, which is what we see here in California, down at this altitude, if as long as I'm putting in regular diesel 2 from a pump, I'm fine. It's really nothing I need to add to the fuel to make it work better or change anything. All diesels put out particulate matter, so it's just allowing the system to work correctly in order to convert it into ash. If I idle more often, I'm going to create a lot more ash than if I'm driving down the road. If I'm driving down the road with a heavy load like towing, I'm going to create more ash than if I'm driving down the road empty. So certainly driving habits and what I do with the truck can affect the soot load and the DPF.
So smoke check will be different for both diesel and the gasoline.
Actually, not as much as you'd think. Diesels all get an OIS inspection test. So we connect to the OBD2 system and interrogate it. And then we have a visual inspection where I make sure that all of the equipment is still properly installed on the vehicle.
Okay.
So it's the same thing I'd be doing on a 2000 or gasoline. The difference is the equipment's different and it looks different, but the test itself is basically the same.
Okay, tests are same because the input pressure and output pressure, you said this kind of DPF is different.
Well, it is, and it's only for this, but that's involved if I'm working on or trying to fix the system. If I'm just doing a smog inspection, I just need to go and make sure everything's there and still connected.
Okay.
Right? So I'm just looking for what's missing.
Yeah, got it.
And I got a little video here. This is done by a county in Nevada, and it talks a little bit about particulate matter.
Hello, my name is Janine Wright. I'm an air quality specialist with Washoe County Air Quality Management Division. This is a short educational video about particulate matter, what it is, why we're concerned about it, and where it comes from. So what exactly is
We barely can hear.
It's a pollutant found in the air that
Yeah, very hard to hear.
smoke and liquid droplets.
Yeah, I know it's as much volume as we have, and I already have it turned up all the way. So the best we can do is try to be quiet and listen. I can't adjust the volume. You might have volume you can adjust on your end, but on my end, what I'm putting out is max.
All right.
Oh, come on. All right.
Hello, my name is Janine Wright. I'm an air quality specialist with Washoe County Air Quality Management Division. This is a short educational video about particulate matter, what it is, why we're concerned about it, and where it comes from. So what exactly is particulate matter? It's a pollutant found in the air that includes dust, dirt, soot, smoke, and liquid droplets. Particulate matter, also known as PM, is a year-round pollutant, but is of greater concern, especially in our region, during the winter months, due to temperature inversions like the one shown in this photo. During these inversions, pollutants can be trapped for several days at a time, basically until the weather changes and the inversion breaks and the wind blows it out of the valley. There are two sizes of particulate matter that are regulated by the EPA. Particles between 2.5 and 10 microns are called coarse particulates, or PM10. These are of concern to human health as they are small enough to be inhaled and accumulate in the respiratory system. Particles of 2.5 microns or less are referred to as PM2.5 or fine particulates, and are a greater health risk than PM10 as they can reach deeper into the lungs. So how does particulate matter affect my health? Children are especially susceptible to the effects of particulate matter as their respiratory systems are still developing. The elderly and adults with chronic heart or lung diseases are also more likely to experience the effects. However, healthy adults can also feel these effects from particulate matter. Fine particulates, as I mentioned before, can get deeper into the lungs and cause serious health problems, such as decreased lung function, aggravated asthma, development of respiratory disease in children, irregular heartbeat, non-fatal heart attacks, premature death in people with heart or lung disease, increased susceptibility to heart and vascular disease for postmenopausal women, and increased risk of lung cancer. So where does particulate matter come from? PM10 or coarse particles come from crushing or grinding operations and dust from construction or unpaved roads. Fine particulates come from combustion activities, including wildfires, power plants, some industrial processes, motor vehicles, and wood burning, such as in your fireplace or wood stove. Our burn code is in place to help reduce the wood smoke in the Truckee Meadows, as this accounts for nearly half of all of PM 2.5 during the winter months. For more information about particulate matter, visit us at ourcleanair.com.
So you can see there where particulate matter, smaller is actually worse. And the big, let me back up here. The big tube here in the middle, that's a human hair. And that's at 50 to 70 micron. So, I mean, you think about how small around a human hair is, and this stuff is dramatically smaller than that. And the problem with the 2.5 particulate is that we can't get it out of our lungs once we get it in there. So you think about coal dust, you hear about black lung and coal miners dying from that. That was really particulate 2.5. That was the stuff that would get down really deep in the lungs, actually collapse the sacs in the lung, contaminate them, and we cannot expel it. We can't cough it out. And so this system, the 2.5, comes from automobiles. That's a primary pollutant that we have. And that's why the diesel particulate filter is there. And it also, another issue with them is they're small enough that they stay airborne for a great deal of time. You heard him talk in the video about an inversion layer and smog. In the mountains, they have smog in the wintertime because that's when they get their inversion layers. In some place like Los Angeles, we get our smog in the summertime, or San Diego, we get our smog in the summertime, like in the El Cajon Valley, because that's when we primarily have our inversion layer. So in order to create smog in the valley, I need to have that inversion layer. And that's why a lot of parts of the country that are out on the plains or up in certain parts of the mountains don't really take smog seriously, because they don't have conditions that they can develop an inversion layer, so they don't experience the downside of all the pollution they create. That's why Mexico City has such huge pollution, is because it's in a big valley. So it has a lot of inversion layer year round. And so that's one reason why the air quality there is so bad. Where there's other cities in countries that are larger or just as large as Mexico City, but without some of the smog problems, because their terrain is very different, even though they may have as many or more vehicles. So really interesting, the effect of particulate matter pollution. And some of that 2.5 can actually stay airborne for up to a year. So pretty amazing how long that stuff's with us.
And respiratory system also affected.
What's that?
Respiratory and lung also affected by the diesel.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That is the biggest effect they have, is that the respiratory system and lungs from the particulate matter from diesels. That is the #1 health issue caused by diesels. And so, you know, people say, well, you know, what's the big deal if you live on a busy street? Well, if you live on a busy street and there's a lot of trucks going by, aren't you getting probably a much higher dose of particulate matter than if you live a block or two away?
Yeah. But the scale they are showing 70 micron for the hair. Here, what they want to show you?
Yeah, it showed 50 to 70 microns for the hair.
No, what they try to show you for this.
Well, they're trying to show you how much bigger a human hair is, because a lot of us can't relate to, you know, how big pollen is, which is going to be in that 10 to 20 micron area. They can't relate to, you know, small dust 2.5, but we can all, or most of us can relate to the size of a hair, because we've lost them, we've cleaned them up, we can see them, we got them in our brush or our comb. So it's something that we can relate to size-wise. Okay. And so we think about the diameter of the human hair, right, and then we think about how much smaller this is. So PM10 is 1/5 to 1/7 the diameter of a human hair. And then you look at PM2.5 is what, 1/20th the size of a human hair. You know, I mean, much smaller.
Okay.
So that's the whole purpose of that comparison. So does that help explain it okay, Saeed?
Yes, sir.
All right. Oops. Don't want to watch again. Well, anyway, you don't want it to play, it plays.
No, we can't hear you clearly from the video.
Yeah, like I said, that's as most volume as I can tweak on that video.
No, it's okay.
I've been looking for another one. I have not found another one that was as short and succinct and to the point as that one. But I do occasionally go look for new videos, and a lot of them are loud. They got a lot of loud music and not a lot of facts or a lot of that kind of stuff. So again, just kind of trying to, always looking for stuff. And if I can't find it, sooner or later, I end up making things myself. So here is our oxidation cat, which is our DOC. And then I've got my SCR after it. And my DPF can either be before or after my SCR. And I can see I have a dosing valve. So this is an injector that sprays the DEF fluid that's 32.5% urea into the exhaust system. And so we can see here I have a DEF tank with a level and temperature sensor. I have a pump. It has its own little computer to run it. The compressor and air reservoir is not something we use on light duty. That's heavy duty stuff. We don't use that. And so we inject the DEF into the system under certain conditions in order to reduce NOx. So the diesel exhaust fluid can be seen with a blue cap. Maybe I add the diesel exhaust fluid underneath the hood, or maybe I add it, it has a separate door right next to the next to the fuel door, not gas door, next to the diesel fuel door. If someone puts diesel fluid into the fuel of a diesel truck, you've just destroyed the fuel system of the truck. So on Ford, it happens common enough. They sell it as a kit. The kit installed is about 12 grand. So if someone puts diesel into the DEF, it's not quite as catastrophic. It still creates problems and still going to set some codes and that. And it can still get expensive, but not to the tune of if you put DEF into diesel fuel and put it in the tank of a truck, and you turn the key on and don't even start the truck, it's 12 to 13 grand. You've just destroyed the fuel system. It happens that fast. If you drive the truck till the truck stops running, you may also destroy the engine. Now you're at 24, 25 grand. That's an expensive mistake. Isn't that amazing how much that costs?
Yeah, it is. But the nozzle of the truck is different than the nozzle of the regular gas.
It is. But the DEF just comes in a bottle with a plastic funnel. I can pour it in anything.
Oh, okay. Expensive mistake you had to.
And it happens. It happens enough. I know how much it costs.
That's true.
And a lot of times it's a driver or someone that doesn't know, or they're talking to somebody on their phone when they're doing what they're doing and not paying attention, and they put it in wrong. It's harder to make the mistake here. This is a Chevy. The fill is underneath the hood. On Ford, it's right next to the fuel fill behind the little fuel door. They're right next to each other.
Yeah.
So you can see if someone doesn't know, hey, go put this in the tank. Well, I'm not sure which one. They guess one, or they're not thinking or not paying attention. Extremely expensive mistake.
Possible by the same telephone busy. Mistake.
I put gas into my diesel truck back in 1997. It was brand new. I took it out to go to Fresno, and the way back I put gas.
Yeah, it didn't run very long with that, did it?
No, I took it to the shop, and they changed a lot of stuff, but they helped me. They did it under warranty.
Oh, okay. Yeah, usually on that, if you just put gas into a diesel, by the time you just change the fluid out and reprime it, it's fine. The problem with DEF, as you mentioned earlier, with the urea, it's so corrosive, it destroys all the fuel system parts, the fuel pumps, everything. All the injectors, everything are destroyed. And on diesel, the injectors alone are almost $5,000 installed. So, I mean, that's why it just adds up so quick, because you can't get it out. Once it's in, it's done. It's so corrosive.
One of the things I learned is if they told me, if you ever make that mistake again, get a quart of oil, drop it into the tank so it won't dry some of the gaskets on the.
Right, because gasoline doesn't lubricate the same way, and it can damage some of the pumps. The best thing is, if you make the mistake, don't start the car, call a tow truck. And on new ones, don't even turn the key on. Just disconnect the battery so no one can turn the key on.
Yeah.
Yep.
So what emissions is the SCR system designed to help control?
What emission? Emission 3.
Not 3.
2.
No.
Which
We've been talking about it. Has everyone been sleeping? Constantine has it correct. It's NOx. Remember, selective catalyst reduction. We're using the urea to selectively reduce NOx. We oxidize HC and CO. The only thing we reduce is NOx. And we filter particulates. We don't reduce particulates, we filter them. So you see where the terms we use to describe what we're doing really let us know, when we look at chemically what's happening, what the system has to do. DEF is part of which emission control system?
Number 2.
Not 2. That would be a three-way cat. A three-way cat doesn't need DEF.
Oh, yes, yes. I thought TWC is stand T for 2, but it is 3 also. TWC. First one, DPF.
DPF is a filter. That's the diesel particulate filter.
Oh boy.
We've been talking about this. And Constantine has it correct. It is 3, the selective catalyst reduction. Because we're using the urea to selectively reduce NOx. And that's why I put in questions here after I talk about it for 10 or 15 minutes, because somehow either everyone's really shy at the end and doesn't want to tell me, or they're not 100% sure and they don't want to be wrong. So that's why I put these questions in here.
Yeah, abbreviation hurt us. Hurt me. All the abbreviation, SCR and other things.
Yeah, and these are all on the abbreviation page I told you guys.
Yes.
If you notice, I'm using abbreviations now. I'm not using the full names. So here's our NOx storage converter. This is what Volkswagen was using. This is also a NOx adsorber, adsorber converter. Different name for the same thing. And we can see here are my 60 seconds and 2 seconds that we cycle between rich and lean so that I can collect NOx and then get rid of it. And we can see here They're using a stratified charge. Again, they're kind of confusing stratified with post injection. It's really a post injection charge. So, and this is how we're flowing it through. So that is what we're doing with the NOx Calica. This is what Volkswagen had. And what Volkswagen did is they never spent the 2 seconds rich. And that's what they got in trouble for. So they programmed it. So if you plugged into the diagnostic connector, if you plugged into the 16-pin DLC, it would go rich for 2 seconds. And it would. So when they were testing it, it tested perfect because they were getting the data out of the vehicle. If you tested it without it being connected, it'd never go rich. That's why when they were reprogrammed, people lost 5 miles to the gallon.
You think they'll let Volkswagen put diesel engines again, or
maybe? You know, it's hard to say. You know, Volkswagen isn't unique in cheating. They all cheat. You know, General Motors has cheated. Chrysler's cheated. They all cheat. Volkswagen just got caught really bad, and they got caught at the wrong time. Back in the late 80s, early 90s, Cadillac and also the Chrysler New Yorker, if the car had the air conditioning on, it would go into open loop at idle and would run about 2.5% CO. It was okay going down the road. If you turn the AC off, it ran clean. Well, all the emission tests were done with the air conditioning off, so the car would pass. But if you turn the AC on, it ran extremely dirty. And they did that so the car would idle smooth. Well, if you drive a Cadillac, do you think you drive with the AC on most of the time?
Yes.
So every time you come to a stop, you're spewing out many times what you're allowed to put out. Yeah, Cadillac cheated. Chrysler did the same thing. We knew about it on the emission testing because we go, wait a minute, why did this car fail so bad? And, oh, should I have the AC on? Turn the AC off. Man, it runs super clean now. We figured it out because we tested the cars.
2% carbon monoxide, too much.
Yeah, but, you know, again, it comes down to they all cheat. Some get caught worse than others. So all the aftermarket performance companies offering def delete kits are quick to point out that these kits are solely for closed course racing and off-road use. They're not street legal in any state, and it is federal law. Get busted on a public road with the diesel particulate filter or anything else removed off of the vehicle, such as the SCR, the owner of the vehicle faces a $2,500 fine. The installer or the technician who removed the equipment faces a $25,000 fine, as does the company who sold the kit. So in other words, as a technician, I have 10 times the liability than the customer who's willing to take the risk. Isn't that amazing?
they say because you should know better, huh?
Exactly. Because I'm the professional. But isn't it nice that the customer is willing to risk $2,500 and willing to let me risk 25 grand? Pretty amazing, isn't it?
How much fine for the cheater? Unique cheater is the Volkswagen. Is any fine for them?
Yeah, 18 billion with a B dollars.
You know, Volkswagen has, it had a vehicle that give 80 miles per hour in Germany, I believe. And I was waiting for that vehicle to come in here, and it was a diesel hybrid.
Right. Yeah, diesel hybrids are very popular in Europe. They don't worry about NOx emissions the same way in Europe, so they run a lot more diesel, just like they also run a stratified charge in gasoline, because they really care about CO2 and not NOx, the same way we do here. The The other issue with mileage, just like the smart car that came to the US, the smart car got a lot more mileage in Europe than it gets here because the US version weighs 400 pounds more because there's a lot more mandatory safety reinforcement in a smart car that's sold in the US than one that's sold in Europe. So that also affects the mileage, especially when you have a car that small. But yeah, diesel hybrids have been out for quite a while, and I am surprised that we have not been able to get one in this country yet. Because it makes sense because of the narrow torque band you use on a diesel, and diesels make great generators, so, and a long life. So I am surprised that we haven't seen them here yet. They've been in Europe for quite some time, and they get great mileage. So every year I kind of look to see when the new cars are coming out. Are we going to get our hybrid diesel yet?
Okay.
Mr. Brian, what about that Subaru that it's supposed to be around 80 to 90 miles per gallon?
I am not aware of which one you're talking about.
I never heard that.
Yeah, about 2 years ago they announced it. I believe last year I was looking at it. They were selling only by order. But yeah, Subaru. My son has a Subaru, but it's not that one.
So
But
is
yeah,
is it an all electric Subaru or it's an MPGE?
I believe it runs electric about 80%, but they have an engine too. Just so I don't know how it works, but
Okay.
it was
Well,
about
the
90
engines,
miles.
I'm sure the engines is a generator. It's probably a plug-in. Then to try to push that up that high. Kind of interesting. We look at plug-in technology, plug-in hybrid technology, and I saw where the Bureau of Automobile Repair offices are closing at 3 o'clock this week to try to cut down on electrical use. They're closing to the public. They still got to work, but they're not. The waiting rooms are closed. And I saw a lot of other stuff like that. Set your thermostat to 78. Don't use any appliances. All these other things during our peak. How are we supposed to charge all these cars? We can't keep ourselves cool and cook. And we want to plug a bunch of cars in. And that's with all of the wind and solar that we have in California, which is a huge amount
I
when
think we
compared to other states.
maybe more solar in our houses would do it. Instead of 20,000, pay like 5,000.
Yeah. I wish I only paid 20,000.
Oh,
Yeah, solar can be expensive. Depends on how big a system and how much you need, but solar can get expensive. It's just less expensive than paying San Diego Graph and extortion.
yeah.
But that's why we don't have solar in a lot of other states, is because it's too expensive. Where my daughter lives in Virginia, you could never justify the cost of putting in solar because electricity is so cheap there. Your electricity is expensive, so you can justify that much money to put solar in.
Sorry, go ahead.
In Imperial Valley, they all they have to do is just dig a hole and steam comes out. They got I don't know about 100, but they got a bunch of hydrothermic
Nuclear plants?
no hydrothermic geothermal
Yep.
a whole bunch. So it's free. They don't have to spend no fuel.
Yeah, no, geothermal is interesting, and you usually use a liquid, so you're still using electricity to circulate the pump because you're sending a liquid down deep and bringing it up. But it is a interesting technology because the theory being that if I go down, 100 feet, it's going to be cooler than it is here, or it's going to be warmer than it is here based on what time of year it is. And so therefore I can pump liquid down and I can do a heat exchange with what's going on down there. So yeah, no, it is an interesting system. And I bet you it's warm out in the Imperial Valley today.
About 118, 115.
Yeah. You don't miss that, do you?
Not at all.
Not at all. Okay, so we are at a good time, Barnum. We got through converters. I got EGR coming up next, and I don't want to break EGR in the middle, and I can't get through it before 10. So I'm going to go ahead and kick you guys out a little bit early today, unless you guys got some questions. And Saeed, I will send you your access code for CDX again. And if it's not working for you, contact the CDX help desk like I instructed. Go ahead and do that, or reach out to Ricardo again and have him help you again.
Okay.
Okay?
I called and left the message, Ricardo, because you recommended and I never get the response. Maybe.
Okay, I will follow up with Ricardo. I'll send him an email also, and I'll CC you on it.
Please.
Because he's supposed to be helping me with that stuff. So let me do that also, okay?
It will be great.
Someone brought up about difficulty in enrollment. I did that before because I think the email that we received, the permission number, was 47669. The one in the enrollment was 47699.
Ah,
So
that,
you just
that'll do it.
699, and I were able to enroll. But if you put in manually the 47669, you'll not go anywhere.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's what you were saying, and I saw you enrolled. So yeah, it worked when you searched it. Like I said, you found it, right?
Yes, I found it. It's
Okay,
just it was just one number that was inverted.
Okay. Yeah. Did I give you that number? So is it my dyslexia that caused the problem?
The one that we received in the email was 47669.
Okay.
The one in the system was 47699.
Okay, that's probably on my announcement, so I'll fix that. Thank you for letting me know.
All right. Maybe that's the problem of enrollment.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir. This is Abdullah, sir. I still have that problem with registration and the fall class. So we've been trying, but I cannot get a register.
Oh, so it's not finding the number, or?
I got the number. We've been trying that number, but it doesn't work. It denied.
Yeah, that's happened.
Oh, so you can find the class, but it won't accept the access number?
Yes, I did, but I did enroll in Mr. Poo's class, but we couldn't register in your class.
Okay, so but you could find the class, but it wouldn't take the permission number. Is that what happened?
Yes.
Just use a different permission number that's not assigned to anybody at the bottom and see if that works.
Okay, sir.
All righty, because that's why I put those up there. There's only so many of us. They gave me 50 numbers. So I figured because sometimes when they do the numbers, they get corrupted and they don't work right. And I've had that happen before too. So that's why I put some other ones down there. Or sometimes someone goes across and grabs the wrong one.
Yeah,
So that's why I went ahead and left the other numbers up there.
Okay, sir.
One request, Mr. Brian.
Yes.
The request for the campus and the office, the live operator never come online if we ask or call them. And I compare with the pandemic problem in the Walmart. In auto section, they have always one person working there in the Walmart. But in our campus, the people and office people, it is my request only, but why they don't at least receptionist work in this pandemic? So nobody.
Well, that's a great question, and I don't have an answer. It's out of my.
I know
why Walmart does it, because they're for profit. They're a private business. Why we don't do it, I don't know. I know no one's.
No, I'm saying it's the only request. It's only request to go to the right place if possible, to the right person.
Right. No, I know, and it wouldn't be hard, but but then no one's on campus, so then they'd have to forward the phone numbers to different people at different times. It could certainly be done. Why they're not doing it, that's a management decision on their end.
Correct. I understand that part. The private institution and private working places.
All right, anything else?
No, sir. Thank you. Appreciate it.
All righty. We'll see everybody tomorrow.
All right. Thank
See
you.
you.